Gold is printing record numbers on your screen. Everyone is staring at the price. But in the background, another fight is breaking out that has nothing to do with candles and everything to do with custody. It's late January 2026. I'm recording this at 10:00 a.m. my time. Drop a comment with your time and country, because this story is global, and the pressure points show up in different places first. Today we're going to do 3 things, fast and clean. 1, I'll explain what people mean by the Berlin demand and why it suddenly feels urgent. 2, we'll break down the hidden mechanics of foreign-held gold, who actually controls it, how access works, and why ownership is not the same as possession. 3, I'll give you a practical checklist to track whether this stays a slow paperwork shuffle or becomes a real stress test of the global gold custody system. Let's start with the phrase itself. The Berlin demand is the nickname people are using for an intensifying push inside Germany to bring home the remaining gold stored abroad, especially the 1,236 tons reportedly held in New York. Germany's total reserves are commonly cited around 3,352 tons, with roughly 1,700 plus tons already in Frankfurt and about 430 plus tons in London for liquidity and trading access. Those numbers matter because they reveal the split: security at home, liquidity abroad, and a huge slab of national savings sitting under someone else's roof. So why does this feel louder right now? Not because gold is missing, not because anyone has proven a scandal. The urgency is about one word: counterparty. When gold is cheap, nobody cares where it sits. When gold is expensive, every kilogram becomes a balance sheet anchor. And when cross-border relationships get tense, even in subtle ways, people start asking a blunt question. If I need my asset at the worst possible moment, how many steps are between me and my asset? That's what this is. Steps, friction, delay risk. 3 triggers are pouring gasoline on that question. Trigger 1, a new era of shocks. Over the last few years, markets have learned that normal can vanish overnight. Supply chains seize, payment systems get stricter, insurance costs jump, shipping routes reroute. None of this requires anyone to be evil. It's just what stress does to systems. And gold is a system asset, not a collectible. Trigger 2, a trust shift. A few prominent economists and policy voices have publicly argued that the old logic for foreign storage has aged out. Decades ago, the story was simple: store metal abroad for redundancy and for trading convenience. But the modern fear is different. It's not physical security, it's operational access. The question has changed from, is it safe, to, is it reachable? Trigger 3, the price level. With gold above $5,000, the New York held portion alone is now valued at a scale that feels existential. When the number gets that big, the public stops treating gold like a dusty relic and starts treating it like a strategic reserve that must be immediately reachable. Now here's the key. Gold custody is not like your safe at home. It's not even like a brokerage account. It's a legal and operational arrangement built on layers. So let's peel those layers. When a central bank stores gold abroad, it is typically held in earmarked form. That means specific bars, with serial numbers, weights, and refiners recorded, marked as belonging to that owner. In theory, it's bailment. The custodian holds it, the owner owns it. But in practice, access is still a process. If Germany says, we want it back, you don't get a forklift the next morning. You get a formal request, a timeline, insurance quotes, transport security planning, customs coordination, assay and bar standard checks, bar list reconciliation, vault exit procedures, receiving vault intake procedures, and repeated sign-offs. Each step is normal. Each step is also a place where time can stretch. And here's the detail most people miss. Gold bars are not like identical bricks. They are standardized, but they still have histories. Bars vary slightly in shape. They carry refiner stamps. They have serials. They have recorded weights. Some bars were poured decades ago. Some meet modern, good delivery standards cleanly. Some require reassay before they can be moved between certain vault systems without questions. So repatriation is not one dramatic airplane scene. It's a chain of custody operation. Think of it like transferring a museum collection. You don't just move the art. You prove the art, document the art, ensure the art, and then you move the art. Now let's address the obvious question. Why store gold abroad at all? Because gold is not only a store of value, it's also a tool. London is used because it's a major hub for bullion trading and settlement. Holding bars there can make swaps, leases, and liquidity operations easier, especially when you want to raise short-term foreign currency funding without outright selling the metal. New York has historically offered a different form of redundancy and settlement convenience for a system that ran on deep collateral plumbing. A large, trusted vault location can simplify certain transactions and provide confidence to counterparties during normal times. So the debate is not abroad equals bad. The debate is abroad equals a different risk profile. And that brings us to the real heart of the Berlin demand. Germany is not asking whether the bars exist. Germany is asking whether the bars can move quickly, cleanly, and predictably when the world is messy. because the worst case scenario for a reserve asset is not theft. It's a polite delay when you need speed. Now let's zoom out and make this visual. Imagine your gold reserve as a fire extinguisher. You buy it for the day you never want to see. If the building is calm, you don't care where it's stored. But if smoke hits the hallway, you care about one thing. Can you grab it instantly? That's the psychology shift happening across the world. It's not drama, it's risk math. And that risk math gets sharper when you recognize what gold does on a national balance sheet. Gold reserves are not just wealth, they are confidence collateral. They can be pledged in swaps. They can support currency credibility. They can reassure markets during funding stress. They can serve as a last resort asset when paper collateral is questioned, which means access is not a philosophical issue, it's a function issue. Now, I want to be very careful here. This is not an accusation against any specific custodian. This is not a prediction of seizure. This is not a claim that anyone is planning anything. This is simply a description of what happens when systems move from calm to stressed. In calm times, procedures are invisible. In stressed times, procedures become the battlefield. So what would a stress test look like? Not a dramatic headline, a subtle one. A request for accelerated inspections, a demand for updated audits, a push for serial number lists, a tighter timetable for transfers, a change in language from overtime to as soon as practicable. Those are the fingerprints. Now let's talk about the practical mechanics of moving 1,236 tons. 1 ton is 1,000 kilograms. A standard gold bar is about 12.4 kilograms. So a ton is roughly 80 bars. That means 1,936 tons is on the order of about 99,000 bars. 99,000. Even if every bar is perfectly documented, moving that quantity is not a weekend job. It's months of planning, batching, verification, and transport. And transport is not just trucks. Depending on the path, it can involve armored logistics providers, secure airport transfers, high-limit insurance syndicates, and strict routing secrecy. It can involve staging in intermediate vaults. It can involve reassays on selected samples. It can involve recasting bars into current market standards if a receiving vault prefers uniform batches. Again, none of this implies wrongdoing. It implies scale. So when you hear, "bring it back now," understand what now really means in a system like this. It means begin the process immediately and compress the timetable as much as operationally possible. And that is where the market starts listening, because compressed timetables change behavior. If a major holder chooses to reduce offshore holdings rapidly, it can tighten liquidity in the vault hubs that facilitate trading. Less metal available for leasing can affect short-term rates. Less metal available for settlement can increase the value of immediate delivery. The premium becomes not just the price of gold, but the price of access to gold. And this is where the Berlin demand becomes bigger than Germany, because if one disciplined institution decides that reachability is the new priority, others quietly reevaluate their own reserve maps. They don't have to announce it, they just adjust. Reserve management is often silent. Now bring this back down to you and your portfolio, because you might be thinking, I'm not a central bank. Why should I care? You should care because the same concept applies to any asset you own through layers. There are 4 levels of gold ownership in the real world. Level 1, you hold the metal in your direct possession. Level 2, you hold allocated metal in a named vault account with a bar list. Level 3, you hold an unallocated claim, basically a promise. Level 4, you hold a price exposure product that tracks gold, but doesn't guarantee delivery to you. Those levels behave very differently in a stress event. In calm markets, they look identical because the price moves together. In stressed markets, they separate because promises are not bars. That's why this Berlin story matters. It is a live, high-profile example of the difference between title and access. Now, I promised a checklist. Here it is. If you want to know whether this is turning into a real custody stress test, watch for 7 signals. Signal 1, official wording changes, not the headlines, the language. If you see terms like accelerated timeline, immediate, full audit, direct inspection, that's the tone shifting from routine to urgent. Signal 2, inspection cadence. If inspection trips, audit schedules, and verification routines get more frequent, the institution is acting as if the probability of stress has increased. Signal 3, bar list transparency. If there's a new push to publish serial lists, audit dates, and reconciliation methods, that suggests the public is demanding proof, not reassurance. Signal 4, logistics announcements. Repatriation requires contracts, transport, insurance, security. If those start being discussed openly, the plan has moved from talk to execution. Signal 5, vault policy chatter. Listen for phrases like vaulting strategy review, custody diversification, storage concentration risk. Those are not emotional words, they are risk committee words. Signal 6, changes in swap and lease commentary. When gold is being used as collateral or for liquidity operations, the footprints show up indirectly. in balance sheet notes, in market rates, and in commentary about mobilizing reserves. You don't need conspiracy. You need to read the footnotes. Signal 7. The pace. If repatriation is slow and steady, it's likely a long-term policy adjustment. If the pace suddenly compresses, that's when you pay attention, because urgency usually means someone sees a real tail risk. Now let's land this plane with a clear message. The Berlin demand is not a prediction of disaster. It is a stress signal. It's a reminder that the modern financial world runs on trust and procedures, and when trust gets questioned, procedures become the battleground. So here's my final cliffhanger for you. If the world's most disciplined institutions start prioritizing reachability over yield, you will see it first in how they treat reserves, gold, foreign currency, and collateral. Because the real story is not the price of gold. The real story is the return of custody as a premium. Before we move on, let me neutralize a dangerous misconception. People hear repatriation and they imagine a single dramatic moment. A vault door swings open, a camera flash, and pallets of bars rolling out like a movie. Real life is quieter, and that quiet is the point. A central bank doesn't want drama, it wants certainty. And certainty comes from documentation. So here's what the process really looks like, in human terms. Step 1 is the paper. A request is filed, a confirmation is returned, a bar list is pulled, refiner marks, serial numbers, recorded weights, and in many cases, the year of manufacture. Step 2 is verification planning. You decide what percentage of bars will be reweighed, you decide what percentage will be reassayed, you decide whether spot checks are enough, or whether you want full counting and full inspection. Step 3 is custody choreography. The custodian vault is not a warehouse. It's a high-security facility with strict movement rules. Movement windows are scheduled, witnesses are arranged, independent auditors are placed, seals are applied, records are signed. Step 4 is transport. Bars are packed in tamper-evident containers. Those containers are loaded into secure vehicles. Routes are confidential. Insurance is layered. Receiving teams are pre-positioned. And yes, even with modern logistics, you don't move this volume in one breath. You move it in tranches. And here's the subtle part. Sometimes a bar can be perfectly real and still be inconvenient. If a receiving vault wants consistent, good delivery form, older bars can require additional checks. If a bar's markings are worn, it can trigger a documentation loop. If a bar's recorded weight differs slightly from a modern scale reading, it can trigger a reconciliation step. None of that is scandal. It's the friction of precision. Now, a quick historical note because it matters for psychology. Germany has already done repatriation work in the modern era. They moved large amounts back to Frankfurt over several years using quiet logistics and public reporting. That history is why the conversation today is louder. The public knows it can be done. The only question is speed and scale. And the phrase speed and scale is exactly what markets care about, because speed changes incentives. If bars are scheduled to leave a major hub faster than expected, participants who rely on that hub for settlement start thinking differently. They raise buffers. They demand clearer terms. They prefer immediate delivery over paper convenience. They pay up for certainty. That is how a custody story becomes a pricing story. Now let's go one layer deeper. Earmarked versus unallocated. Earmarked or allocated is like having a specific seat number on a plane. You can point to it, you can verify it, you can say, that seat is mine. Unallocated is like having a right to fly. The airline owes you a seat, but you do not have a specific seat assigned until the moment of boarding. In normal times, that feels fine. In crowded times, you want a seat number. That's the difference. And if you are holding gold through any product, any account, any platform, you should know which one you have. Not because the system is evil, because the system is layered, and layers behave differently under stress. Now, what would make this Berlin demand turn from loud to seismic? It would be a shift from talk about where the gold is stored to talk about how fast it must be mobilized. Because mobilize is the word of crisis. Mobilize means make it reachable, make it transferable, make it usable. And usable gold is not just metal. It is metal that can be pledged, swapped, or settled quickly. That's why location matters. Frankfurt is reachability, London is liquidity, New York is legacy plumbing. And a shift in that map is a shift in how reserve managers see the world. Now, you might ask, if Germany brings it home, does anything break? Not necessarily. A well-managed repatriation can be smooth, but it can still signal something important. A new preference function. When the preference shifts toward reachability, the entire system quietly adjusts. Other holders review their own custody concentrations. Custodians review their own operational readiness. Settlement hubs become more sensitive to demand for physical allocation. And the premium for immediacy rises. You don't need drama to get that effect. You just need a big, credible actor to move. Now let's translate that into something you can actually use. Here are 5 questions you can ask about your own exposure, even if you never touch a gold bar. Question 1. Do I own an asset or do I own a claim? Read the exact terms. Claims can be fine, but you need to know what you have. Question 2. If I wanted delivery, What is the pathway? Is delivery allowed? Is it optional? Is it restricted by minimum size? Are there special fees? Are there long timelines? Question 3. Is my holding segregated? Segregated means it's not pooled. Pooled means your interest is proportional, not specific. Question 4. Who is the custodian and what is the jurisdictional footprint? This is not about politics. It's about operational redundancy. Single points of failure are a risk in every industry. Question 5. What is my plan if the premium becomes the story? If the spot price is one number and immediate delivery is another, do you know which one you are actually exposed to? Now back to the Berlin demand. If this pressure continues, you may see a new rhythm in headlines. Not just gold price up, but gold location and gold custody becoming mainstream conversations. That is rare. Most cycles are driven by price and emotion. Custody cycles are driven by procedures and institutions, and procedures once tightened do not loosen easily. That's why I keep repeating the central idea. The real story is not the price of gold. The real story is the premium on access to gold. And access, once it becomes scarce, changes everything from leasing rates to settlement confidence to how people value paper promises. Hold that thought. Because if custody becomes the premium in gold, it tends to spill into the next layer of hard assets as well, especially the assets with thin liquidity and heavy industrial demand. That's a separate episode, but the logic is the same. In stress, the world pays for reachability, and that is exactly what the Berlin demand is teaching the market in real time. Now here's the final takeaway, in one sentence. When institutions start paying for reachability, the market is telling you that trust is no longer free. So don't just watch the price, watch the plumbing, watch the language. Watch the audits, watch the schedules. Watch whether allocated becomes the most valuable word in the room. Because the next phase of this cycle won't be driven by hype. It will be driven by custody friction. If you want me to cover the next chapter, comment one word so I can see where the audience is leaning. Type access if you think custody is the story. Type price if you think the chart is still the story. And if you hold any gold exposure, take 60 seconds today to read your exact terms. Know whether you own bars, a pool, or a promise. Educational content only, not financial advice. Stay calm, stay precise, and I'll see you in the next update. One more thing. This topic attracts loud rumors. Ignore the noise. Focus on what can be verified. Official statements, published audits, and actual movement schedules. If those documents tighten, the signal is real. If it's only viral clips, it's theater. Keep your attention on the boring details. That's where the truth hides. Boring is the compass. Drama is the decoy. Choose boring now.